the Nikon D3400, D7100, and the D610 are some of the best value picks today around the $500 price point on the used market. Nikon has been firing on all cylinders with its mirrorless Z line of cameras. They've been pumping out camera bodies and lenses at an incredible pace, which means there are so many bargains to be had on the used market. In this video, we're going to look at the stats, we're going to look at the nitty-gritty to determine the best value for money in the Nikon lineup. To do that, we'll have to divide and conquer the DSLRs into 5 groups, starting with the entry-level series. Then we're going to consider the advanced amateur series like the D5300, 5500. Next, we'll go into the kind of mid-range enthusiast line, the D7100, D7200, and so on. We're going to also consider the semi-professional line of cameras, which I mean really should be called professional, but whatever, just to give them a naming convention. These are the D750, D810, D850, D500, and their predecessors. And finally, last but not least, we're going to cover the beasts, Nikon's flagship cameras. These are Nikon's most rugged bodies seen at the sidelines at the Olympic Games or in the jungles of the Amazon. So let's dive in. There's going to be a lot of information on the screen. Please do not panic. I'm just going to quickly go over the columns real quick for one of the cameras, and then we're going to go down the list and look at all the cameras available. So in this first group, we're starting with the D40. It was released in 2006, 6 megapixel CCD sensor, weighs 522 grams, 470 shots, SEPA rated battery life, 2.5 frames per second, just 3 autofocus points. It does take an SD card and has a fixed low resolution LCD screen. It uses the first version of Nikon's CPU, the X Speed. It is not compatible with AFP lenses, and if you're trying to use it with AFD or screw mount lenses, it will be manual focus only. So again, we're going to go down the list real quick. The jumps in stats were a lot more significant in the early days. And we had the D60, the D3000, the D3100. Now we have the 14 megapixel sensor, D3200, boom, and we're up to 24 megapixels. I'm less concerned with the number of megapixels, but rather with the quality of the sensor. And a higher megapixel sensor usually means it's a better sensor than the one that came before it, which means it performs better in low light and gives you higher image quality. Finally, the trio, the D3300, 3400, and 3500 are the ones that actually support Nikon's AFP lenses, which are great value for money. Since we're spending $500, you could just get the D3500 on the used market for $400. What I think the value is right here in the D3400, and I have reviewed this camera on my channel. It's an upgrade over the D3300 because look at that battery life. It shoots 1080p 60 fps video, but again, I would rather spend less here and spend more on the lenses. That's where I would dedicate more of that budget to. Amateur, so we're no longer entry level, starting with the D50, the D5000, released in 2009. And you can see right away Nikon's direction for this line. It uses an articulated LCD screen and has video. So I think Nikon from the onset wanted this series of cameras to appeal to the people that wanted to shoot video along with their still photography. Again, we're going to blaze through these really quick. Towards the bottom, there's not much differentiating. They're all using that 24 megapixel sensor. These cameras are a bit chunkier, a bit heavier than the entry-level ones we just discussed. But just like the entry-level ones, these are not weather sealed, right? They're not going to be as tough as the cameras later in the video. For $500, you could go with the latest one, the 5600. It's just that for these prices, I would push people towards the enthusiast cameras unless you really need that articulated touchscreen. But I think if you are buying a camera specifically for video, there are going to be better options out there. Alright, things are getting interesting because we have the D70, the D70S, the D80, and the D90, which was a really popular camera back in the day. I think Nikon sold a boatload of these. You'll notice still none of these are weather resistant. Finally, with the D7000, big jumps in FPS and number of autofocus points, and the series just improved from there. Culminating in the D7500, which you can still buy new today as of the making of this video. If you think of the D7500 as a baby version of the professional level D500 camera, you're going to be very pleased. But I think the real value, you have a choice between the D7100 and the D7200. If you need that deeper buffer, if you really need to shoot lots of images in a continuous sequence, and you don't want the buffer filling up too fast, you'll want to go with the D7200. Now the value is still pretty high on the used market because it's still quite popular for wildlife shooters. However, if you have a limited budget, I recommend you spend more on the lens than on the camera, which is why I would personally pick the D7100. You'll notice otherwise the stats between them are very similar. Next, we have a very busy category, and it's worth noting that the D200 today can be purchased for $100 US, which is insane value for the money. But anyway, we're hunting for the best value around the $500 mark. So finally, we get to the D700. You guys already know about it. If you shoot Nikon, this is the legend itself. The D800, which is a very high resolution camera for its time, 36 megapixels. D800E, which is an improvement over the 800. The D600, which was plagued by some early QA issues that Nikon eventually resolved with the D610. The D810, which is again an improvement over the D800 series and the one I would be leaning towards if I needed a high resolution body. D810A, D750, a great Goldilocks choice. Funny enough, it's available for around $750 on the used market, and it weighs 750 grams. All around, very hard to go wrong with this camera. D500, which is again an APS-C camera, it really belongs as the spiritual successor to the D300S. The D850, which is considered to be one of the best DSLRs ever made, if not the all-around best DSLR ever made. And finally, the D780 never had its chance in the limelight because it arrived simultaneously with a lot of the mirrorless offerings. Still available new and still quite expensive on the used market. So looking at this table of cameras, where's the value? I'm going to choose 3 cameras. The D700 I choose for obvious reasons. If you already have photographic experience and you're looking to maximize fun with Nikon full frame, I think the D700 is an obvious choice if you can get one in good condition. And at the bottom, the D500, even though it's $1,000, I know it's not $500, but it just offers such incredible value that I think if you are looking to get into sports action wildlife, you have to seriously consider that one. But the one in the middle, the D610, is the one I'm going to recommend for $500. It offers an improvement over the D600. That one, again, was plagued by the QA issues. You can look up oil on sensor to read more about that. With the D610, Nikon finally fixed the problem. This camera was quickly overshadowed by the D750, but it's no slouch itself. 2 SD card slots, which makes it perfect if you want to get into professional photography. You want that peace of mind with the backup card slot. Shoots 30 FPS video, 6 frames per second, and 39 autofocus points is plenty. And it has really, really amazing low light performance, which is one of the reasons I would lean towards full frame if I needed that better low light performance. Finally, we're going to just breeze through the flagship models here, starting with the D1, all the way back in 1999, 3 megapixels. Nikon released a bunch of these, and these were very expensive back in the day, and now you can pick them up for, less than 5% of the original purchase price, especially adjusted for inflation. Finally, the D4, D4S, D5, and D6 are still very popular with professionals today. So where's the value for money? I think for under 1,000, again, not 500, but under 1,000, the D4 would be my personal pick on the used market today. So finally, pick number 1 for cheap and cheerful. We have the Nikon D3400. Amazing value on the used market today. If you're looking for lenses to pair with this camera, the so-called AFP trio of lenses with the 10 to 20, the 18 to 55, and the 70 to 300 VR version offer amazing image quality and value for money in a small, lightweight package. And of course, we have to mention the 35mm f1.8G DX lens, the ultimate no-brainer to buy if you just need that fast, normal prime lens. For our do-it-all camera, the one that should handle just about anything you throw at it even today, I think the D7100 is a great value, and especially great value as your entry door into sports action wildlife. Some of the lenses you can consider, and I'm not saying you need to buy any of these lenses, the Sigma 17 to 50 millimeters. It's certainly an upgrade over the kit lens and gives you that wider aperture if you need more foreground-background separation. The Nikon AFS 16 to 80 millimeters are very high quality. Lens optical performance is right up there with Nikon's full-frame lenses. Tamron 90 millimeter macro, the 272E, could also double as your headshot lens. And finally, the 200 to 500 millimeter f5.6E VR lens at 900 seems like a lot of money, but when you start to realize what you're getting for that money, this lens looks like an absolute bargain for getting into action and wildlife. Finally, getting serious, if you want to jump into full frame, D610 is a great value pick at around the $500 mark, which leaves you plenty of money for lenses. Recently I released a video with the 24 to 85, I think that's a great value pick. The 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8 Tamron G2 VC lens is a great mid-range zoom that will deliver professional results. The Nikon Nifty 50, perfect for street portraits, travel, landscapes, you name it. And for the wide-angle budget pick of choice, we have the AFS 18 to 35 millimeter. You don't get insane ruggedness, but you get image quality at a good price. I know we just covered a lot of information. Thank you for sticking around. If you have specific questions, ask in the comments, and myself or somebody more knowledgeable will be happy to help you, I'm sure. I will share the spreadsheet. It's publicly available. You can slice it and dice it, print it, put it on your refrigerator if you like. And as always, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more.